Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown. This was a best of 3 up against the legendary Walt the Salt, and it had been a hotly contested affair so far, and this is going all the way to game 3. Now I'm going to be picking the Forces of Chaos up against the Might of the Empire here, and my build is generally just a super annoying build, and that's what it's designed to do completely. So dotted along the front line, we have a ton of cheap and cheerful marauders here, happy to be here in the blistering sun to face and carve up some manlins. We also have the Mirror Guard in the central portion to add a bit more bulk to our front line, as it is a little bit flimsy. Yes, it'll do a lot of damage, but charges from Volkmar, Karl Franz, cavalry and the like will really hammer it home quite badly. Up ahead, we do have some little Chaos Warhounds with poison protecting quad marauder horsemen. And these guys are the definition of a pain in the butt. They're incredibly cheap, but at the same time, if you let them Kobe their javelins all day up against your large targets and cavalry, they'll certainly make some fantastic value back. So a really annoying little skirmish force by myself there. And to add even more to the annoyance, we have some rather mobile exalted heroes up here on some flying manticores. And this is my favourite way of bringing them to the battlefield. They're completely naked apart from the Mark of Khorne, which is a really lovely constant ability, and as long as their leadership is nice and high, they're going to gain that base weapon damage, melee attack and immune to psychology, and charge bonus should help them fare pretty well up against Karl Franz or swooping down on top of enemy characters. We do have the Summoners of Rage as well, Regiment of Renowned Dragon Ogres. Not a must-pick in every Chaos matchup, but in certainly a very common one. These guys do huge anti-large damage, and that is one thing I'm going to struggle with a little bit if the Exalted Heroes get taken out. Yes, I have the Marauders to do slow, continuous damage, but we're not going to be taking down anything large rather quickly. And leading our forces, we have the ultimate Duck Ever-Watcher himself, Saf Royale, and yeah, he looks pretty scary. He's coming with Stand or Die, Arcane Conduit, Final Transmutation, Plague of Rust, as well as Searing Doom. And of course, the giant Duck Lord himself here is going to be unbreakable. And right hidden in deep Vanguard, just below the hill line, we have some Chaos Warhounds. So from my opponent's build, what has he brought to the table? Well, Walt the Salt is clearly a man of culture who loves hardcore rock and roll builds, because this build is insane. We have Spearmen guarding the flanks, but the centre of his main battle line is a mixture of great swords, 2 of them in fact, as well as the Sigma Sons, Regiment of Renowned Swordsmen. So real bad to the bones front line. We have some war wagons as well to do a little bit of harass and annoyance, but we have the Hellblaster volley gun. You gotta love anyone who brings their Hellblaster. This can do huge damage, and especially tear up my cavalry if it gets a little bit too comfortable. They are going to be protected by some halberdiers here, and in the back line we have Demigryph Knights, one of which is going to be the Royal Altdorf Gryphites, so 2 of those bad boys. And for the Lord Court, it's pretty much what you expect. We have a Jade Wizard with Regrowth and Earthblood, and every time you see a Jade Wizard on the field, that pretty much guarantees you're going to be seeing the mighty Karl Franz. He's not going to be dual wielding today, just coming in with the Reichland Runefang, making him a little bit cheap and not bringing Garmaraz, but he is such a nightmare for me. I get nightmares constantly, every night, waking up of Karl Franz grinning in my face, as I do a good job of kind of beating him down to really low health. He then flies away, gets regrowthed up and comes and slaughters my forces, so I have to see if that happens again today. But anyway, we are going to be advancing our force, so it looks like Demigryph Knights are going to be floating out onto this left-hand side, trying to get some free value. These Chaos Marauders are pretty isolated over here, and we are trying to drag the Summoners of Rage, as well as Exalted Heroes, to protect these guys as they fall back, but it may be a little too late. But it looks like we've done enough to force off the Demigryphs, also by pressuring forward with the Warhounds onto the War Wagons here. Well, it looks like Karl Franz is ready for this. Going to be swooping in, and the Warhounds are going to have to dart away. Their leadership getting very low, but in comes the giant chicken, waving his big old stick and scaring away at Karl Franz. However, the Hellblaster volley gun has switched its targets, and despite the fact the Everwatcher comes in with huge missile resistance, he's still going to be taking quite a pounding. And up in the sky, Karl Franz is getting javelins up his bum, which is certainly not too comfortable. The Exalted Heroes continue to float out to this side for now, just waiting for the rest of the Marauders to catch up with them. Put in some nice little pressure early on to Franzmeister. However, the Hellblaster volley guns can turn and do some pretty horrendous damage to our horsemen, although it looks like for now they are going to be trying to line up other targets, maybe the Exalted Heroes, and that is exactly what they're going for. Though it looks like Karl Franz swooping in, saying, no, I want to take them head on myself. But the Exalted Hero taking some pretty big burst damage there and having to fall back, although the front lines are getting rather close to engaging. For once, the forces of the Chaos probably going to lose the front line engagement. Karl Franz does swoop in onto the Chaos Marauders, getting a lovely rear charge. And looks like it's going to be a hammer and anvil technique as the Demigryph Knights lining up for a thunderous charge as well. Spears lowered, Marauders running for their lives. but they are going to be getting lanced in the back. Not a good day for them. They're certainly not cheerful anymore. In fact, they are being terror-routed here, but in comes the Summoners of Rage with a counter-punch, as well as the Exalted Heroes trying to threaten Karl Franz. This part of my formation is looking particularly disastrous at the moment. Chaos Marauders are throwing themselves all the way along the front line, but they're not going to be able to beat Great Swords, although the Mirror Guard should do relatively well. And over here, the Exalted Heroes have managed to isolate Karl Franz, and these guys certainly no joke whatsoever, especially if they get the charge like this into the back of Franz. They can do some massive damage, and it looks like he is trying to retreat for now. Pop in stand your ground, he's going to turn to engage where possible. But we have a ton of Horseman support, coving those javelins up into the sky. They also drop an Overcast Plague of Rust, making Karl Franz incredibly squishy with only 40 armor. Demigryph Knights are going to be lancing over towards the Everwatcher though, and this is pretty scary stuff for myself. Getting a little over eager here with our gigantic Duckling, charging into the War Wagons, although Summoners of Rage are here to support and help bring down the Demigryphs. So both units are on us right now. It looks like Karl Franz is going to be getting healed up, which is always a nightmare for me. So an upgraded regrowth certainly going to keep him topped up at the moment. With the Everwatcher in big trouble as Karl Franz comes in for a rear attack, and these Demigryphs are doing horrendous damage. We do get an upgraded Final Transmutation, however, on all of these juicy targets. With the Exalted Heroes coming in, Karl Franz is now taking an absolute pounding, and both Lords so desperately low out of the gate. Demigryph Knights are being terrified away as the Summoners of Rage really start racking up some huge value. Karl Franz looking to get up into the skies, but we did lose an Exalted Hero for our trouble there. In the main battle line is an absolute mess, as you can see. Halberdiers pushing back Chaos Marauders and chasing them, and the Great Sword's going to get surrounded a little bit. We are diving as well in with our Marauder Horsemen, feeding ourselves through this tiny gap to start shutting down the Hellblaster Volley Gun, which has got some really lovely damage done so far. And we have the Hounds on top of the Jade Wizard, because up in the skies, Karl Franz has rallied, and you can see that regrowth is going pretty much to full health. So this Exalted Hero, who wanted to chase him off the battlefield, goes, you know what, I really don't want to be here today, and is going to try fleeing for his life. Frontline not going terrible, because the Mirror Guard are racking up some lovely damage onto the Sigma Suns, and shall hopefully be able to swing around here and help support. But it looks like we have got the Jade Wizard off the field, which is going to be crucial. I cannot allow Karl Franz to heal up any more than he already has. Although it looks like he's having quite a lot of fun out here on the side, beating down that Exalted Hero, who's certainly going to get slaughtered by the Royal Outdoor Gryphites, down to 157 health. He's got pretty much zero chance of coming back into the fray. Summoners of Rage floating out onto some spearmen, just trying to burst them down and protect the horsemen, who are doing some lovely damage. And the big old chicken is still alive here, bouncing around and just slaughtering the odd troop here and there. Mirror Guard being a real stable force in the centre of the field for me here, carving his way through Sigma Suns as well as Great Swords with deadly efficiency. Up to 85 kills, doing a brilliant job. And we're going to be bringing over the Everwatcher as well, just to try and break up this formation, cause some tear outs and all that scary stuff. Marauders as well, a little bit bad mic on my half, do need to come back to the field a little bit quicker. And up in the distance we have a load of horsemen as well, just kind of vibing, chilling and trying to do damage to Franz and the Demigryphs where possible. Although it looks like the reign of the Chaos Warhounds may be over here, as the Royal Outdoor Gryphites do finish them off. We do have a nice little chain lightning coming down as well from the Summoners of Rage. It looks like it's going to do some pretty okay damage, helping mop up some of those spearmen and doing some nice damage to the Royal Outdoor Gryphites. This Exalted Hero diving down as well, getting the charge on the Demigryphs and tearing out in them. Although Karl Franz is rather scary here, and I'm not sure if the Exalted Hero shall be able to escape. We're trying to use his animations against him as he swoops in. We're going to climb up in the other direction in a desperate attempt to escape here. So we need to get the Mirror Guard on top of the Halberdiers. Here's a fantastic answer to our Summoners of Rage, and we're allowing the Everwatch at the moment just to crump some Great Swords in the distance. So the Halberdiers are roaring and charging gloriously into combat. For Sigma, they scream, Halberd low down, but there is many a mighty beast on the field. Summoners of Rage coming in for a lovely flank attack, going to be obliterating these Halberdiers into smokes of puffy red mist. And the Mirror Guard as well should be able to clean them up quite nicely, as the Everwatcher simply floats away. At this point, we have pretty good map control of the fast-moving elements of my opponent's build has now kind of been dealt with. So this huge clobber of horsemen just coming over and dogging Karl Franz's footsteps. Every time he lands, everywhere he goes, we will be there watching you, with the horsemen just throwing javelins after Franz time and time again. And that damage certainly does rack up. As another volley comes in, you can see his health is disappearing so quickly, and he's been coming in now for that last charge on the Everwatcher. If he can slay the Everwatcher, there's certainly a good chance to get him back into the game. Marauders and Mirror Guard are surrounding the rest of the state troops, and in he comes. The Everwatcher down to 1,000 health at this point. Summoners of Rage, of course, going to be coming in for the counter charge here. Karl Franz does get an Overcast Plague of Rust on him as well. down to 40 armor. Summons of Rage are having an absolute field day, although some of them are getting slain in return by the mighty Franzmeister, and this evil little duck is going to cackle and run away as fast as possible. In the distance, you can see the rest of the Empire troops do break and run as Karl Franz is dispatched by the Summoners of Rage. Very well played to Walk the Salt. We had 3 incredibly close, awesome games, and this was a really fun kind of end to that series, so very well played to him. Before we get into the end stats and kills and whatnot, I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, feel free to give the video a big old thumbs up and subscribe for more Total War Warhammer content. We drop videos every single day. If you want to see your replays up on the channel, feel free to join my Discord. There's a link down below in the description. And down below there now as well, there's a link to Patreon, but also to Nexus, which basically, if you want to pre-order Total War Warhammer free, buy any of the Total War Warhammer games, you can do it through there. It costs you guys the exact same amount of money as buying it through the Steam store. It's supported by CA, and it gives me a little bit of pocket change as well for your troubles. But anyway, awesome stuff. Hellblaster Volley Gun coming in with a whopping 4,400 damage dealt, 1,300 damage value. Certainly racked up some beautiful damage there, and Walt protected it relatively well at the opening, but allowing us to shut it down with those Marauder Horsemen sneaking through the gap really did probably cost Walt the game, because if this Hellblaster Volley Gun had survived, it certainly would have helped finish off the Everwatcher and bring down the Summoners of Rage as well. So I think that was the pivotal moment, was the fall of the Hellblaster. War Wagons did a decent job as well, over 1,000 damage value. They're pretty cheap, and getting 6,000 damage dealt is certainly no joke. Demigryphs as well, getting some pretty decent damage value and damage dealt, but eventually getting swarmed and dragged down. I like the idea of the Great Swords. Unfortunately, they didn't do too fantastic here. They were slightly outclassed. Yes, they're going to beat back the Marauders, but a combination of Mirror Guard and Everwatcher really helped finish them off, and the Halberdiers simply couldn't be everywhere in one go. And this is the reason I hate facing Franz. We did so much damage. We chucked everything at him, and despite that, he then gets healed up to full health and still comes back and does nearly 8,000 damage dealt and 2,000 damage value. He's such an impressive combatant, and this combination here is a true love affair between the Jade Wizard and Karl Franz. As for my own forces, Summoners of Rage were really key to countercharge the enemy, and we got a lot of good engagements with them on the Demigryphs, as well as the Franzmeister getting 2.4k damage value is relatively insane, also getting 7,700 damage dealt. The Exalted Heroes, as well as the Everwatcher, did pretty good. Unfortunately, the Heroes did their job early on, dispatching Franz, but couldn't chase him off, and then they suffered from there for their insolence of not dispatching the Emperor of Empire there. The Everwatcher as well did good damage across the board. That massive final transmutation certainly helped swing the tide against the Demigryphs. 11,000 damage dealt is pretty scary, as well as 2,500 damage value. Of course, Marauders didn't do fantastic. They were quite outclassed here by the Empire troops, but the Mirror Guard made up for that in abundance, still relatively healthy in the end game, and getting nearly 1,000 damage value despite being above half health. And the Marauder Horsemen, these guys are so pesky and annoying, and they did fantastic damage value across the board. I think the top one here was 1,000, hunting down Franz, breaking the kind of being used as a combat troop as well to break down the Hellblaster Volley Gun and charge enemies in the rear and surround them and slowly drag them down. But anyway guys, hope you enjoyed. Until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.